Alright guys, so round 3 action on the left. It's Troy King. He's playing Red-Green Devotion. I believe he made the top 8 of our Star City IQ a few weekends ago. Similar to the deck Alec Myers plays, it is basically red splashing green for Domri and Xenagos. And his opponent is Joseph Deal making his triumphant return to the store. He's borrowing Scotty Wright's Esper control deck. Both these players are 2-0. We see Troy with a turn 2 Frostburn Weird. That meets a Celestial Flare from Joseph, and then he chains a second Frostburn Weird off a Burning Tree Emissary. And Joseph is going to cast a Divination, the Theros Divination, or the Born of the Gods Divination. So pick your poison on that. Or cast Council of Soratami back in the day. So Joseph tapped out here. Troy has an opportunity to strike. No Nykthos. Leah's going to pump the Weird for max. Joseph takes 6 down to 14. Frostburn Weird, an all-star in these red devotion decks. Not only does it add devotion count, not only does it block almost all relevant creatures in the early game, but it presents a quite sizable clock in itself as a 4-power attacker when it's pumped fully. Excuse me, so Last Breath takes out the Weird. We just get in with the Burning Tree Emissary, but still not adding anything to his board here, giving Joseph a chance to claw out of this. And there's a Jace Architect of Thought. Probably we're gonna tick this one up. Yeah, tick it up, play a Hallowed Fountain tapped, and just pass back here. So Joseph completely vulnerable here. Troy can resolve whatever he wants to. We can slam a dragon, Planeswalker of some sort. Troy drawing a lot of lands this game, and none of them are Nykthos. You probably just attack in here if you have no other action. You probably just attack in into Joseph and deal 1 damage. As I don't think the attack on Jace is really relevant here. I'm gonna go ahead and pre-combat cast a Burning Tree. So chains a Burning Tree into a Fanatic of Xenagos, or a Fanatic of Mongoose. Probably the best thing he could do at that point. And just redirects the damage to the Jace, so a pretty good turn for Troy there. Interesting that he chose to do that. You might just go upstairs to Joseph, put him down to 6. Because if Joseph can find a verdict here, D-Sphere is almost effectively a verdict. Though if Troy has a main deck removal spell for that enchantment, he's going to get a lot of mana out of the deal. And Joseph has both Last Breath, Celestial Flare, and Azorius Charm mana up. There is an Ash Zealot off the top. Servant for 6, it is good, so Joseph leaving mana up, but just bluffing. Joseph's going to need to find a verdict or this one's over. Well, that's not true. D-Sphere is also good. Any of the spells I just mentioned. As far as removal goes, also good. Jace will be fine here. That Mutavault will do a pretty good job of trading with the Fanatic. So Troy deciding what wants to do here. Just going to serve in with the Ash Zealot. Interesting. So forces Joseph to either go down to 3 or chump block with the Mutavault. Or I guess Troy's still thinking if he wants to or not. Nope, he's just going to serve them both in there. Joseph going to snap block the Fanatic. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I like Troy's original play better. And Troy has no follow-up, just 2 cards in hand at this point. And Joseph plays a basic island. Looks like we have a Jace here. You're almost obliged to take the Jace up here to keep your life total effectively at 2. If you go looking for cards, you have to find an answer to that Ash Zealot. Otherwise, you're dead to another Ash Zealot off the top or a Xenagos. I guess you're dead to a Xenagod no matter what. I cannot figure out what cards are in. There's a Boros Reckoner. Attacking Joseph directly. Just going to put him down 1 because of the delayed trigger. And there's a Springleaf Drum. The most awkward card in the deck. Why is it in there? Because there's nothing better in those last 2 slots. And it does occasionally let you cast a turn 2 Domri or a turn 3 Xenagos. So we dig with cards with the Jason. There's the backbreaker as a Sphinx's Revelation comes off the top. So Joseph's life total effectively 7 now. Let's see what Troy can find. Another land? Are there any Stormblast Dragons in this deck? That's the real question. And there's the Rev in response to declare attackers. So Joseph's going to net 4 life here. And Troy pulls the trigger on that Reckoner. He'd held that for quite a long time. I'm not sure exactly why. Excuse me. Joseph counting his mana, which is never a good sign. I think he has a Fated Retribution in his hand now. Just plays Temple of Enlightenment, leaves the card on top. That's got to be another bad sign for Troy here, as he had a chance in this game. Just drew too many lands, allowed Joseph to get back into it. Although to be fair, Joseph draw's not been that great, short of a couple of single removal spells. No verdicts, only 1 D-Sphere. He has drawn a couple of Jaces though, and he did have to tap out on 3 against the Shrine deck. So another Sphinx's Rev revealed off a Jace. That Jace is going to die this turn, but if Troy wants to. But Joseph's life total now effectively 10. So Troy's really going to need to find some business here. Serve in with both creatures, Troy says. And there's Wednesday coverage. Um, as with the summer coming around, there's a definite chance we might miss some Fridays. So game 2 underway. The Esper deck of Joseph Deal getting the better of Troy in game number 1 as Troy stalled out a little bit and flooded on mana. And we'll see if his aggressive start here in game 2 with a turn 2 Ash Zealot will get the job done. Also shout out in the chat to our Danish friends who are currently watching at this hour of the morning. If it's 8:30 here, I'm going to go ahead and assume it's about, what is it, 7 hours to Scandinavia, so 3:30 in the morning over there. So thanks for watching. Ash Zealot continues to pound him. Troy stuck on 2 lands here. Syncopate slows the beats down from Joseph. Last Breath answering the other one sends Troy up to 24, but leaves him with nothing on board. Troy keeping a 2-land double Ash Zealot hand. But Joseph has an answer for both of them. Here is a Boros Reckoner. Going to scry before we do anything to get maximum advantage. Leave it on top and then just pass back. So sitting either on Dissolve mana or just don't have a play here. Reckoner connects and Troy doesn't have a follow-up. So there's a turn 5 Jace. I'm going to tick it up. Make sure it stays around here. And let's see what Troy can muster. Troy just going to Joseph's head. Brings him down to 11. Not bothering to go after the Jace. And there is a replacement Reckoner. So 4 power on board even if Joseph continues to tick up that Jace. This time he's going to dig for cards, revealing Essence Scatter, Last Breath, and Temple. None of those are going to be answers to the onboard situation. Troy's deciding. Troy giving him valuing Essence Scatter over Last Breath. Wow. That is very aggressive split. I think Troy may have overthought that one there. Trying to deny Joseph his 6th land, but it's very possible Joseph just plays his 6th land. And then cast a Supreme... Oh, no, it's another Jace. Going to take advantage of the new Planeswalker rule and then tick up Jace. So effectively using it twice the same turn, but Joseph's life total effectively 7 here, as those 2 Reckoners are going to pound in. So there's the Last Breath. I did forget that interaction, but Joseph sure didn't. Once you attack, the trigger from Jace hits, it becomes a 2-power creature, and then it's a legal target for Last Breath. So that one takes that out. Frostburn Weird comes down, and then Joseph spins up Divination versus 2 lands. Seems like an easy split there for both players. Easy decision, I should say, for both players. Joseph's going to go ahead and keep digging, looking for a rev, which he finds. So Joseph in control here, and for being a red-green devotion deck, Troy's deck sure has not generated any devotion-based plays. Has not found a Nykthos this whole game. This whole match, I should say. Really struggling to close this one out here. He will get an attack in here. There's a Temple of Abandon, keeping it on top. So we can attack in here. If we pump the Frostburn Weird the entire way, we get in for 5. So Troy sending the Reckoner at Jace. And then's going to pump the Frostburn Weird. I forgot there wasn't a trigger here because Joseph drew cards last turn, so all the damage gets through. Joseph content to go down to 5 because we know, having played that land, his life total is effectively 10 because of the Sphinx's revelation. But he is facing down 7 power on board, so even with that revelation, he's still going to drop down to 3 this next turn. He'd be dead to a 5th land and a Storm Breath if he doesn't have any other business here. He has a Dissolve. We know about the Essence Scatter. So there's the attack in. Before damage, we're going to rev for... Not really sure there's a reason not to go for the max here. Just going to go for 3 up to 8. So he'll live exactly here if, even if Troy maxes out the Frostburn Weird. Looks like he's just going to do it for 5, put Joseph down to 3. Follows it up with a Chandra. I can hear him out there, Troy announcing, how's that Essence Scatter now? So there's Chandra. Go ahead and tick it up, I would imagine. Do 1 damage to Joseph. Now he's at 2. And let's see how Joseph can dig himself out of this. Surely found a verdict which will answer the creature threat, but he's going to have to deal with that Chandra, but he has a D-Sphere in hand too, so this is going to be a pretty good turn for Joseph. Verdict the creatures, D-Sphere the Chandra, still leave up Essence Scatter for any potential dragons that may show up. So Joseph may have stabilized here. Troy does have at least 4 cards in hand here, so not not out of this by any means. He feeds a Perforos into the Essence Scatter that we all knew about. And Joseph untaps with 1,000,000 mana. Another rev should put this away, and Joseph just passes back here, so all spells in his hand. Here is a Xenagos. That's going to get dissolved. Scry, leave it on top. Do I see another revelation in Joseph's hand? I can't make it out, but he does shove the card to the bottom, and Troy just passes back. Just adds another land to his board and says go. Ratchet Bomb, dissolve. I think that's a Supreme Verdict in his hand as well. Excuse me. He's going to go ahead and run out the Ratchet Bomb. Safe to tick it up to 2 and just leave it to answer any potential Ash Zealots. So Troy's going to start his turn off with the Scry. I think we push everything here that excuse me, isn't a Planeswalker or a haste creature, I would think. He's going to leave it on top. And there is a Storm Breath Dragon. Joseph could not dissolve quick enough. Question in the chat, they can't hear me announcing. No, they cannot. We are far enough away that we are not influencing the game. Joseph shuffling his hand back and forth. I think there's another dissolve in his hand. He's going to scry that one to the top as well. End of turn, going to put a counter on his ratchet bomb. What did we keep on top? It was a blue card. It's a divination. So leave that one on top so he can draw two. He drew a gold card, not sure if it was a verdict or a rev. But Joseph living on the razor's edge here with just 2 life. There's a Fanatic of Xenagos. Would have been for lethal. But Joseph has another dissolve. He's got 4 mana. He can... Oh, Celestial Flare, the perfect answer. So Joseph just has all the answers all the time. And there's a rev in his hand. So this one's slipping away from Troy here. And it may be over, as he's representing a rev for 7 now. So life total effectively 9. Troy draws another land down to just 1 card in hand. It is a Rurik Thar. We'll see if Joseph has a response. The Rurik Thar is going to resolve, but Joseph's going to go up to 9 off of Sphinx's Revelation first. So important here, as no matter... as since the Rurik Thar did hit the battlefield, Joseph is going to have to go down to 3 to get rid of it. Yeah, question in the chat, is this Esper? Yeah, I think I have it labeled incorrectly. I think it's just blue-white control. The Wright brothers, this is the deck that he's borrowing, they switch back and forth between different builds, and I think you are correct, this is just the blue-white version, as we haven't seen any black cards, nor a significant number of blue-black temples. So there's a D-Sphere that does answer the Rurik Thar, but as we predicted, he had to go down to 3 to do it. And there's Elixir of Mortality, so his life total effectively 8 now. And Troy is hell-bent here, so Joseph just needs to find a win condition. And this game is pretty much wrapped up here. Here's a Jace, let's dig. 2 Mutavaults and an island. So Joseph is going to get a Mutavault and an island. So Troy taps 1/4, Mistcutter Hydra 4/6. Can't counter that. But Joseph couldn't cast his Celestial Flare quick enough. Just feel like this is one of those games, one of these matches that Troy is just not supposed to win. The Red-Green Devotion deck actually has a pretty good game against the control decks, but just seems like as good as Troy's draws have been, Joseph has the right card when he needs it. He's played him well. So we're going to shove a card off a Temple of Deceit. Cycle an Azorius Charm here. Digging desperately for a win condition. Doesn't want to cash in his Jace if he can avoid it. Takes it up to 3 and just passes back here. So we'll see if Troy can find any business off the top of his deck. No, he just finds a mountain. Doesn't feel like bluffing a spell. It's not a bluff that Joseph is really ever going to respect at this point in the game. And then Joseph uses this window to go ahead and shuffle all of his counter magic and removal back into the deck with the elixir and move up to a more comfortable life total of 8. So Jace ticks down, revealing, oh, moved him too quick, I couldn't see it. It looked like a Temple and a Last Breath. Temple went to hand, Last Breath got shoved. There's the Xenagos off the top. Very unlikely that this resolves. It does resolve. In fact, I see Joseph has another Sphinx's Rev in his hand. There's There's actually a point where you could argue just Sphinx's Rev for all but 3 leave Dissolve open and most certainly draw Dissolve to answer the Xenagos in that fashion. But Joseph decides to live a little less dangerously and just resolve Sphinx's Rev for the max. So despite playing a solid 10 turns at 2 life, Joseph has now gone all the way up to 18. He's drawn most of his deck. He cycled it back with 1 elixir. So far, and the quest for a win condition continues. There's a temple. At this point, it's just a matter of how much punishment Troy wants to take, as it is almost statistically impossible for him to win at this point. As Joseph feels comfortable enough to go ahead and start serving into Troy's life total, completely ignoring the Xenagos, plays the second Mutavault. Looks like the card I missed on the Jace reveal was a Sphinx's Rev, so this game is completely over with here. Chaining Jaces at this point. Joseph cleaning up his hand is getting rid of whatever random cards he doesn't need. Dissolve answers the Reckoner. We can make a Satyr here if we want to, but it's gonna, one of them's going to be eaten with the Mutavault. They desperately dig through my pile of tokens. They will not find any extra Satyrs, as they are relatively hard to come by, I believe. Or at least in my limited experience trying to find them, they are. End of turn, Cyclonosaurus Charm. Still digging, leaving Dissolve on the battlefield as if it was a permanent. There we go, tidying up his mana. Joseph looking for an Elspeth, looking for an Aetherling. There's a Verdict, clear out a couple of Satyr tokens. Start serving in with the Mutavaults, might as well kill the... Nope, doesn't even want to, just goes after Troy's life total here. Digging with the Jace, revealing Divination, Verdict, Last Breath. Question in the chat, did he just play 2 lands? I guess there may have been a spot where Joseph played 2 lands. I think he scryed and then later, at the end of his sequence, played a Mutavault. That's very much a possibility. At this point, I would say it's probably irrelevant, given the game states, but yeah, we did miss that one. Normally we try to correct things like that if we notice them live, but just passed us by. I can guarantee you it was not malicious, but nevertheless. Troy keeps making Satyrs. Another Divination. So I'm wondering if this is the Andrew Cuneo deck that only plays like 1 Elspeth as the win condition. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. I would think you would have at least 1 Aetherling in here, but I'm not going to pretend. Question in chat, isn't that a judge warning though? At a competitive event it sure is. But at FNM level, it's... you can't really escalate to a game loss or a match loss, so there's really no point in announcing that, short of education for the player, and I'm sure Joseph just made an honest mistake here. So there's a Celestial Flare. But this giant Mistcutter Hydra is going to connect at least once. Looks like for 7. So Joseph continues to serve in here with his Mutavaults. He has another Celestial Flare, so barring Troy drawing another copy of Mistcutter Hydra, he's got an answer to Troy's win condition. The chat very correctly identifying that the win condition in these blue-white control decks is opponent boredom. You play long enough that your opponent gets tired of Magic and just quits the game entirely. Dissolve answers a Stormbreath Dragon. We know a Celestial Flare is going to answer this Mistcutter Hydra. And we're 4 turns away from the Mutavaults finishing this game up. I haven't updated my live totals in the month of Sundays, not as if they are relevant or not. The march of the Mutavaults continue. At this point, I think Troy is just trolling himself as well as the rest of us, as I believe he just activated Nykthos for 0, gaining no advantage. We're now on the 3 Mutavault plan. We've also found a Blind Obedience, which will help us close the game out as well. Troy again activates for 0. I'll go ahead and start cleaning up our titles. There he goes, packs it in. So one of those games where the game was over about 20 turns ago, but the control deck still needs to find a way to win. Troy well within his rights to play the game out. It's FNM. Where are we going? So Troy drops to 2-1. Joseph's going to be able to draw into our top 8. Round 4 will be coming up here within about 10 minutes, guys. Not enough time left in the round to move another match over. We might try to kill some time here on camera. Otherwise, we'll be back with round 4 in just under 8 minutes. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow